for the first time ever, TradTards and TradTardettes, as it were, to another episode of the Puffs with Peter podcast. There's women on my show, and I don't know how to feel about that. 3 of them. I am outnumbered. I'm kind of scared, but we're gonna roll with it. All of you know me already. I hope if you're already watching this obscure, retarded podcast on the internet, then you probably already know I'm Anthony Schneider with TradTards. But I have 3 new guests on, and they are all biological women, from what I understand. So it's an amazing day for the female sex. I mean, this is a huge glass window has been shattered, and the glass is falling into my eyes. So before we get any further, I guess would each of you lovely ladies like to introduce yourselves and welcome to the TradTards podcast. Thank you for coming on. Don't all jump up at once.
I think the lovely Miss TradTards should go first, given her name.
Yes, this is my beautiful fiance, who is very beautiful. Believe it or not, she is, and she's a real person. This is not a hallucination.
Actually, I am AI generated. I think Novus Ordo generally is a little on the cringe side. They
So
just
true.
don't.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel all that different from many Protestant churches that I've been to. In terms of like atmosphere, there's nothing really important to say about myself. I, like you said, am female. So I have feelings. Probably helpful insight on your manly podcast.
I am Mrs. Bibble, big fan of Barbie. Bibble is my dude. I am born and raised Catholic, and I grew up in the Novus Ordo, and that is where I'm most comfortable, but I'll still go visit TLM every now and then. I'm super excited about the topics we're going to cover because I have a lot to say.
I'm very scared, but I'm also very intrigued. It's gonna be an interesting night. And last but not least, our guest Moors. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, I am Moors. I'm sure your audience will appreciate the Foyd takeover. Similar to Miss Bibble, I was born and raised Catholic. However, I used to go to Novus Ordo, but now I do my best to exclusively attend TLM. And yeah, some may call me a keyboard warrior, given my antics online as an anonymous niche, internet person. But yeah, that's about it.
Well, you're in the right place. We're all just one club of autistic retards, so that's good. Thanks for introducing yourselves, ladies. I had to get out of that horrible getup because it's so difficult to talk with that mask on. First off, something that's really stupid, but I know that the viewers would be amiss if it wasn't brought up while we had 3 women on the show, is the WifeJak debacle. I actually don't know too much about it.
I'm the opposite.
Apparently, there was a meme. You know everything about it.
Yes, I am mutuals with some of the more vocal people with the controversy, I guess. And I'm unfortunately a Twitter user, so I've seen it every day logging in, plaguing my timeline. It's really retarded.
I mean, this only came up in what, like the past 3 weeks?
It did, yeah. Somebody made the meme, and then it just became a war between groypers, baptards, and like normal people, basically. So,
Mrs. Bibble and Miss TradTards, have you any idea of have you heard of this at all?
I'm looking it up now.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it up on the screen here. Window. There we go. All right, so this. Oh, I gotta add it. This image has caused so much strife.
Broken friendships.
Yeah. Mrs. Bill, Miss TradTards, I'm curious. I mean, do you does this image evoke any like feelings at all? I mean, when I first saw it, I didn't really think much of it.
I don't see anything looking at it, but it looks like a lot of the memes are kind of just making fun of like basic things women say, maybe.
Mhm.
That's the vibe, from what I understand. But apparently, people using this image was just a complete war. Just on the online space, there's people policing the use of this meme, and it was horrible. People wouldn't shut up about it for like a month.
Yeah, so it started out. I don't want to say it was divided between making fun of like retarded things sometimes women do or say, but then there was an approach of it being almost endearing, like, oh, she did this something stupid, it's so cute, and generally men just using that. Although I think it just ended up being the same thing as guys playing dolls and dress ups with the trad WifeJak, and it just kind of devolved from there. I don't know. It started out cute, but then it just became more dumb. And then it just, it ended up actually with the whole Groiper issue, it ended up becoming like the perfect display as to why a lot of people have become A-loggers, anti-Groiper, or just, staying away from America first. Because the response was not normal behavior.
Yeah, I don't know why this image, like, because there's a million different memes of the WoJack thing. I mean, I don't know why this image in particular, the usage of it just completely set some people off.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm getting old. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, people saw it as like basically guys like, oh, this is so cute. Look, this is what my wife does, and then Groiper's like basically calling those people simps. The lines became a little bit blurred, with people's usage of it, and then the response to would we just be complete bitterness or anger towards it. I get people calling it stupid or annoying, but it just kind of became apparent it was people really just jealous, honestly, of people in relationships and just, talking about it. Because one of the criticisms was like, oh, you don't need to brag about having a wife on the internet. You don't need to say how much you love her. That makes you a simp, which it's kind of weird.
Yeah, this is why I don't have Twitter. I don't know, Mrs. Bibble, Miss TradTards, I don't believe you have a Twitter either. So I think that's why we're saying,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I'm just trying to unplug from any social media. Mrs. Bibble, do you have a Twitter? I don't remember if you do or not.
No, TikTok is my element.
Oh
no.
no.
I love
Did this ever grace your screen on TikTok, or is it just like not? You're not.
No, this is my first time seeing it today. But my favorite one I saw was a closet full of clothes and WifeJak going, "I have nothing to wear."
Wow, she's just like me, for real, for real. Yeah, I mean, it's dumb, but I don't think it warrants. People were replying with like basically torture porn or just weird images of like her getting maimed in some way,
Yeah.
which is kind of weird. Yeah, I mean, people like Pine Sap, they disavowed, the use of impurity and just generally acting vile or like complete faggots, posting that type of stuff, which is good. We need more people like that, but I think America First and Groypers really need to be a bit more loud about disavowing things like that and just really setting their course back as a Catholic movement.
Yeah, I mean, it's always been interesting to me. I'm just curious for all of you, like aesthetically, like I think it's cool that we actually have some people that have never seen it before. I mean, like, is this just like, do y'all think it's just like an ugly image? Like objectively, do you look at this and do you just like, wow, what a retarded looking thing? Or
I kind of like
it just looks like bad art.
I like that she's like simple looking. Like she's not like overly exaggerated feminine or overly like sexualized at all. Even like I like that's just simple.
yeah. I guess that is kind of ironic that it became such a. I don't even know. There's probably a French term for like some very like controversial item that I can't call to mind right now. But yeah, this was like this was like the Dreyfus affair on Twitter. Like I don't know how like this was blown so far out of proportion, but we had to get this out of the way because this was just bombarding all of my social media feeds, and it was the dumbest shit in the world. So had to bring it up. Yeah, but I guess. All right, I just want to get this fucking thing off my screen because. All of us have varying experiences, being Catholic. Obviously, with Miss TradTards coming in, very recently into the faith, and with I guess the rest of us being cradle Catholics, but kind of finding more traditional forms of the faith at different times of our lives, and also like how often do we really attend a more traditional or not traditional liturgy, and how much we really identify as such. So I guess the real question is, how trad are you? So I guess we'll just start clockwise here. Mrs. Bibble, I'm very curious to hear, because I know a little bit, right? Because we're friends like IRL, but I'm very curious, like, how would you describe where you fall on the trad or more, I guess, mainstream Catholic, and how you'd feel about it?
No, this is interesting because like my first TLM mass was actually with you, and so that's an experience that I'll always value. But
I completely forgot that. Yeah, wow, that's true. That's true.
Yep. And we sat like second row, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into. And you're like, "We're sitting second row. Like, are you nervous?" And I was like, "No, it's fine." And then I had literally no idea what I was in for because I thought I was just going to be the regular mass just in Latin. But so I find myself being more comfortable with Novus Ordo just because it's what I'm familiar with. But there is a part of me that like even with Novus Ordo, like I prefer there's like a nighttime mass I really like because a lot of the music is in Latin, and it's just a lot more like a lot more of like somber. I don't know if that's the word.
Reverent.
Yeah, reverent. It's a lot more reverent, and I think that's super important, especially when like dealing with like the miracle of mass. And I don't tend to enjoy masses that are more like the youth mass or like the contemporary music just kind of sends me into a little bit of a rage. And so it's like I find myself like liking the trad values and appreciating that more in Novus Ordo. But I think a lot of like there's parts too where like I don't live nearby a TLM church, so I'd have to like drive an hour, which I know a lot of you guys do that, and a lot of people make that sacrifice. But for me, it's just a little bit harder to do with like work schedules and stuff. And I'm not trying to make excuses. It's just the reality of my life and like where I feel comfortable, and most importantly, where I feel like closer to God. But so I feel like earlier when I did the introduction, I said like where I feel like I like going to TLM, but like naturally every week you're going to see me going to Novus Ordo. But like I will get annoyed at Novus Ordo when I feel like people, because you still see. I went to a couple weeks ago. I went to like a Eucharistic miracle and meaning presentation, and it talked about how like a lot of churches in America, everybody gets up for communion. Like everybody gets up, and like there's still like the majority of like Novus Ordo Catholics don't think that it's the body and blood of Jesus. So I think that's why I find like frustration too, is just like how relaxed people can be with it. And so like I've been raised for this, so I do it, but I don't actually understand it or believe it. And I feel like when wanting to be surrounded by people who are more serious and like understanding of the faith, I find that more often at TLM. But I kind of like to still like push people to have those uncomfortable conversations within the Novus Ordo, like not just like blindly go along with everything. Be like, no, like this is real, or oh, I don't appreciate when we do something like this because it feels like disrespectful. So that's kind of where I fall in it all.
So you're a bit of a rabble rouser within the Novus Ordo.
It can be. There's times I'm just like obviously not wanting to be like I should make a scene right now, but there's times I just kind of want to be like, what are we what are we doing? I'm trying to think of a specific example where I was like, oh, like during a homily one day, a priest was talking about how like sometimes divorce is, I don't remember if he used divorce by word. Maybe he was referencing annulment, but he was saying sometimes marriages don't work out. And sometimes marriages don't work out, and that's okay. And I was just like, whoa, this would never fly at TLN.
That is.
Yeah. And also,
And
an
then
annulment isn't like the marriage didn't work out. It's
It's something
I
severe
mean,
happened.
yes,
well, it's not even that. An
And then,
annulment
like,
says
marriage
that
was
marriage
invalid
was
from the
never
first
valid.
place. Yeah.
So
Yeah, that there was some
weird.
motivating factor.
And then lately, I feel like because with the annual appeal, a lot of the homilies will turn towards you need to donate money, and I'm like, there are people who are come to mass and they're hesitant. Like they're hesitant. Should they be here? Should they keep
Mhm.
coming back? And then you're met with, please donate to the annual appeal. And
Ships.
the biggest thing that's been getting me fired up isn't necessarily the church, but it's been how the church wants to bring the youth. So I've been like, volunteering with like youth ministry, but just kind of like the things they do to keep the kid, like to entertain the kids is so like, and like, I think there's can be a very powerful way you can get them excited about the faith, and they're
Yeah.
completely missing it. Like they had a day talking about the saints, and they talked about Saint Teresa Lisieux, who's like one of my favorites, and like a little flower. And not once did they mention the novena and like praying, and then like having flowers as a gift from her that she's showing you that she's like praying for you. Like not once was that brought up. I'm like, you want to get kids excited about the faith and prayer and wanting to come to mass and like wanting to learn about the saints. Like tell them the really amazing things about the saints instead of just like this saint was meaningful to me because I broke my leg or my teammate broke their leg and we prayed for him so we could go to state. Like literally that was what happened. And I was flabbergasted the whole time. And then
Sports. We love the
Sports
Saints
ball.
because sports.
and that was like a kid giving their testimony, but just like, okay, like you're young, but like no one told you about this, but also like another mom gave her saint testimony, and then she just talked about what really got me fired up was like, in a youth group like this, like you have some kids who, don't have to worry about like how food's going to get on the table. And you have some kids who do have to work to help their family put food on the table. And this mom in front of these kids was like, I had everything I could want growing up. And then I didn't for a short amount of time. I didn't. So I prayed to St. Francis for help. And now and then like and then it's just like, but like the lady who is talking is known to be a well-off woman right now. So I'm just like, you're just like complaining about not real issues to kids that do have issues. So it just, there was stuff like that was like, I'm just like, we're not pulling kids to the faith anymore. Like this is stuff that's going to push them off. And not, most importantly, why aren't we talking about the miracles and like the meaning of them? Like,
Yeah, you kind of see it, and I guess it is like a Nova sort of thing, like de facto, but almost this like pop culturification of like certain teaching, like especially the saints. Like the saints are just like these like cool dudes. Like I mean, and I guess they are cool people, right? These people lived lives of heroic virtue, and the church has declared, after what's supposed to be a thorough process of vetting them and also attributing miracles to them, that okay, this person has lived a good life and they lived a life that could be, you can model your own life after. But now it's just kind of like almost like, oh yeah, the Saint Funko Pops, it's so great, like we love them.
Yeah.
And if you pray to Saint Francis, or I mean, like it's the whole, a lot of people like know this, like the Italian grandma who like loses something and just Saint Anthony is kind of just like this, oh, he'll just like find your thing for you. It's like, yeah, like okay, yeah, saints have their thing that like kind of set them apart. But I mean, think about how many saints were like just outright killed for their faith.
yeah.
I guess it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but
Yeah,
yeah.
definitely reminds me of Carlo Acutis, where he's just been dumbed down to, guys, a young person who used a computer, he's an awesome saint. You should become Catholic.
Yeah, it's like they don't want to take serious. Like they don't want to take. it's like an aversion to. Now, granted, like you can have like moments of brevity,
Hmm.
but like everything has to be like this Lehecan based, like we love our wholesome Chungus like Catholicism, and like like yes, we can feel good about the faith, but you also gotta like like kind of like lock in and be like, no, I mean like this really is about like saving your soul,
Hmm.
and yeah, a lot of these saints died horrible deaths.
Yeah. I
And
think also
it's
there needs to be a focus on, apologetics itself, because these kids are they might go to public school, or they're going to be in cities and areas that are going to be completely against them. And they're going to be faced with arguments they might not know how to approach. And nobody's going to be educated about that. And I think that's really important. So, you don't have kids having a crisis of faith because nobody told them, common arguments against the church and how the church approaches these things. And that's how you have kids just leaving the church.
Yeah, growing up in a Protestant area, that would have been really nice to have like anything, because I just had to figure that shit out. It was just like, oh, this was getting leveled accusations that I'm not even Christian, things like that, and then having to figure it out. But Mrs. Bibble, you did mention one thing: the difference of contemporary music versus more traditional music, and I wanted to bring it back to Miss TradTards because I remember the first time we went to a Novus Ordo together,
Yeah.
and
Oh no.
that was a very interesting experience. Specifically with the music, I don't want to spoil too much. Did you want to talk a little bit more about what you remember from that, Miss TradTards? Because that was
Well, I'm not remembering what was the first Novus Ordo I went to with you, but and when you say, oh, there was horrible music, that makes me think of like every time that we've been. So I would need more elaboration for like exactly which one it was. But
I think we can edit it out.
two stand out in my memory, where there's this one guy who just kind of like warbled. And then another time where it was like funneled in on speakers, and it was just the most horrible, cheesy music you could possibly hear. Like at the end of a Hallmark movie, that's the music that would play.
I think the first one we were stuck.
Oh, yep, that's the one with the guy who was warbling.
Oh, it was rough.
It was.
And we were right under the speaker for the audio input. Like it was just a speaker, and it was just the like just the vocals, right?
Yep.
Oh,
terrible.
Have you ever been to a Novus Ordo where they have projectors with the lyrics on the screen for said cheesy songs?
Oh yeah, that's my home parish.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
The projector, the screens were new. That's what they used with the annual appeals to buy screens for
Are
the
you
song.
serious?
Every time I'm home, they play Come to the Water, and that's like my least favorite, just for high school reasons. I was in choir and we had to sing it too much, and every time Come to the Water and the lyrics are on the screen, I'm like, really?
Oh man, yeah. I've seen some very, very bad Novus Ordos in my life, and I feel like the bar constantly gets lower. Like I've seen very few like very awesome Novus Ordos. I'm like, oh, that was okay. It's just like every time it's just a gamble. I don't know how to, like you're on vacation and you're just like, what crazy shit am I gonna see?
Me when I went to Shingatig Island. Oh, goodness gracious.
There's a Catholic church out there?
There is. Yeah, except the diocese has an issue with priests, or the priest there was a loner from the Philippines.
Oh no.
So, yeah.
I don't even, but I just remember when I took, Miss TradTards, when we went to that first one, and we were in the car, and I was very curious. I was like, okay, this is someone who has never been to a Novus Ordo and had only seen, I think, up to that point, it was just the Latin Mass. We went, the parish we go to now. and I had asked you, like, what did you think? And it was very, I mean, it was very eye-opening hearing, you know, your explanation of what you had experienced. I mean, what, I don't know how much you can recall of that, but I mean, like, do you still like remember, I guess, like some of the sentiment like from that day?
Frankly, not really. It was so long ago. I guess I remember. I mean, I already said it felt a lot like just a Protestant church. Kind of like, I don't know, being led by the music to feel what they wanted you to feel at that moment. So kind of like influenced. It wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, it's a rough scene, I guess, when you're getting it for the first time. But I mean, I remember, I think so. Growing up, Nova Sordo is kind of odd. Then coming into that scene, I mean, so that's crazy that Mrs. Bibble, that was the first time you had been, and that was wasn't that a Christmas high mass?
It was, yes.
Wow.
That must be
So
awesome.
it was the midnight too.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
And yeah, the only seats were literally in the front row, which, yeah, I mean, at least you got to like see what was going on. I remember, I think the first time I went to it, I had a hard time seeing like the front because I was near the back. Does anyone have any like closing comments on, you know, the Novus Ordo versus TLM experience? I mean, maybe Moors, do you want to comment on your Novus Ordo upbringing, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, I will say that I'm definitely blessed to be part of a diocese where there really, I mean, at least in my church, there was not an issue of, liturgical abuse and crazy Noah's Ordos. My friend has a story, we have a few parishes. Well, people know that it's a little bit more sus, I guess. And, it reflects in the crowds of the churches there. And people generally avoid them, but we have a really good stock of priests and parishes, so it's really not as bad. However, I definitely have always felt it just being kind of lackluster and lacking. I do recount, especially when I was a kid, I would always avoid the Eucharistic ministers and just try going to the priest because I knew something was wrong with that. And
Yes.
I feel so vindicated because I was right.
To build on that, that was one of the things that at that first Novus Ordo Mass that I was like, wait, what's going on? I thought you said it was really sacred and important. Why are there random people handing it out?
Yeah, the parish Susan
Yes.
giving out the Eucharist.
Yeah, and like my ex in high school, his parents were Eucharistic ministers simply because they wanted to be held accountable for coming to Mass. I'm like, that's not a reason to be a Eucharistic minister. Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's. I guess I'll close with one anecdote. When I was in college, I had a roommate who, I had talked to him a lot about the faith, and he really didn't know much about Catholicism. And I was like, "How about you come to Mass with me?" And of course, this is like, with my college, it was very restricted. We only had one Mass option, and it was a very generic, I think, boilerplate Novus Ordo with all of the good and bad that comes with that. And I took him to it, and he was like very confused because he's like, "This really isn't like what you were telling me about." Right? He was like, "The Catholicism you explained to me, I did not see that reflected at all. Like in what you just took me to."
Our history just does not reflect. It's sad.
Vatican II.
The consequences. Yeah.
Yeah, we could go into that all day, but yeah, Eucharistic ministers, crazy shit at times. We can all agree.
Yeah, I know one thing. So in my parish, we used to have, I think, 11 or 12, or diocese, 11 or 12 TLMs, and then they just got cut down to 8. And one of the excuses they used was that, oh, we don't want people to think it's some secret club or something, which really doesn't make sense to me because we have masses that are like, Justin Vietnamese, Spanish, all of this. It really is quite strange how, anti-trads or just people who haven't gone to the TLM or have something to say against it, trads or something, they act like we're some sort of secret club where no, our numbers are increasing and more people are, growing curious about it and joining in. And if anything, the mass being in Latin just, points to the universality of the church because it can be applied anywhere and everywhere. And it's not going to be, regional based on some regional dialect.
Yeah, it's actually universal, as the name Catholic implies. And I mean, this is something actually I can ask all three of you, because I know that all three of you have experienced this in different ways. And when me and Miss TradTards started dating, actually, Miss TradTards, you had witnessed the fallout of this, kind of the Novus Ordo trad, just like beef that sometimes happens for no good reason.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I and no, Mrs. Bibble, you were also privy to this as well. The specific
Yes.
instance that I'm talking about.
I know
So-
exactly what you're talking about. Biggest difference is that you say in a TLM, we have to be good people and we have to not commit mortal sin, and if we do, we need to go to confession and be actually sorry for it, and if we die with mortal sin, we go straight to hell. And they're like, yeah, that's true, like I don't want to do that. And then you say it in Novus Ordo, like, you die with mortal sin, you can go straight to hell. And they're like, no, we don't. Like, be like, the catechism teaches this.
Mhm.
And then, no, it doesn't. And then it's just, they're like, okay, so we can't talk about that. And then there's like one
Yeah.
hand, it's like, confession is something you only have to do once a year. Okay, great. And then in those confessions, I don't know what they're saying, but I can only imagine, like cheesy things, like when my friend said he was trying to coach his parents through confession, and they were like, I guess I didn't read my Bible this year. Like it's just not doing like really good, like examination of conscience. But I don't know. I just think that's the thing. Like, Novus Ordo wants the cozy Catholicism of like, it's okay and Jesus loves us, but like that's very Protestant way of thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's even reflected in the, some of the prayers, the consecration, and the reforms made to, the prayers change. It's just like, oh, we can't make it too scary, can't mention original sin, hellfire, all these things that is a reality that we all need to face. And they're just like, nope, it's too scary. We got to water down the faith and, let people do whatever they want.
Literally.
Yeah, and if you're just like not like part of this cozy Catholicism, like if you like want to bring up like, hey, like you like maybe like a mortal sin that's like common, right? Like, hey, like do not cohabitate, right, before you marry.
Yeah.
Something like that people will be like, oh, well, like you can't say that. That's not very pastoral. That's the word.
In this economy?
Yeah, exactly. And there is a specific instance that Mrs. Bibble and Miss TradTards are privy to that Miss TradTards, when we started dating, saw the tail end of. And I remember thinking like, wow, if this is Miss TradTards' like first view of like how Catholics get along, like that's probably a pretty bad impression.
Yeah. Yeah, I was definitely a little blindsided by all that going on. Literally the first time I went with you to that study
Yeah.
was a little surprising.
Yeah. It's like the little things just add up. Like, the priest facing the people and his back is against the tabernacle, which for some post-Vatican II churches are even just off to the side somewhere. It adds to that issue. I think it was Miss Bibble had mentioned that a lot of Catholics do not believe in the true presence. And, if you have a mass like the Novus Ordo where, some may be pretty kind, normal, and ones with rampant liturgical abuse, small things just represent a spiritual reality, and people are not going to recognize the true presence if you're not going to treat the Eucharist as such, based on the prayers, based on who's handling them, and even based on the actions of the priest.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think homilies are just completely different.
Oh my goodness.
It's a whole different level. I mean, now granted, I've heard like some pretty good homilies from Novus Ordo priests, but like, it's hard for me to like, this is, my entire life I've been hearing homilies from Novus Ordo priests, and there's maybe only a handful that really stand out in my memory. And in the short time I've gone to Latin Mass, I mean, like, now granted, I have heard a bad homily in a Latin Mass. It can occur. It can happen. But, the homily is one small part. But in the Novus Ordo, it almost feels like a bigger deal.
Yeah,
maybe I'm
people
wrong. Anyone
whenever
else?
they come out of mass, always like, "Oh, I like that homily. I didn't like that homily," and they use that as a way to judge how mass went.
Yes.
Are you serious?
So true.
Yeah, yeah, because like obviously not every priest is kind of the best preacher,
Mhm.
but they all obviously have the indelible mark of their orders that they've been given so as
Yeah.
to perform the sacraments. But the Latin Mass, it's kind of a you can have. I mean, it's kind of funny. Like if there was a mass where it wouldn't be as important to have a good homily, it would be the Latin Mass. But it also
Yeah.
just seems that the priests that take their faith really serious and that might be more traditional also just give really good homilies.
Yeah, I mean, it just feels like there's a higher standard because they know their audience basically, and they know these are people that take their faith seriously, and that's how they make their homilies. And the one thing, even for me, it's a little bit off topic that I did notice was the difference. It might be mundane, but it's just how people dress when they go to mass. Because oh my, I have seen women, unfortunately, in tank tops and ripped jeans, tiny shorts in the Nose Ordo on a Sunday mass. It's kind of awful. I mean, even our own priest, he's called it out, but nobody changes anything. But then TLM, everybody's very well dressed. They take this so seriously. I mean, even if you're not able to do that, of course, you're always welcome. But there is something to note of that.
Let me tell you about an outfit I witnessed by someone giving the first reading.
Oh.
A college-aged girl wearing like a sweater vest and a skirt that barely covered the cheeks, like barely. Like
Oh my gosh.
My
like
word.
and it was like a distraction because she sat in front of me and I was like, I'm seeing way too much legs. So she goes up to do the reading. I'm like, are you kidding this girl? And she goes to like bow and she did a like if she's standing at like 180 degrees, she like moved like probably like 5 degrees. Like that was her bow. And then had to go up and hold her skirt as she was doing the reading and then came back. And I was just thinking, I'm like, how does she sit in the pew? Like I'm like her butt cheeks gotta be touching the pew right now. I was like, how did you think that was appropriate for mass today?
Wow.
See, I'm happy that y'all can like talk about this because if I start talking about it, then like you're a fucking creep. Like what are you doing?
You're looking at a woman's legs.
Yeah. So like, please continue talking about this because I cannot talk about this or I will get so many accusations thrown at me.
No, I like that's so true though because I feel like every time I go to like a Latin mass, all the women like are wearing like long, really pretty dresses. Like they look like very feminine and beautiful in such like a natural way. And then like Novus Ordo, it's really easy to be like, oh, like yep, it's time for 5 p.m. mass. I'm gonna throw on my jeans and my sweatshirt. Like
Oh my gosh, 5 p.m. mass is the absolute worst. You could tell everybody's just there because they kind of have to be there because it's not good.
And it's
I
hard.
mean, I'm
like
curious.
hard to,
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was just like, it's hard too because it's like if you're like doing things in the afternoon, like you're not like specifically getting ready for mass. Like so, like I fall victim to it where I go from one thing to mass, and now I'm dressed casually because I came from like elsewhere.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think it's just more of an issue where people need to. Sorry.
No, there's like the slightest of delays. So I think like, oh, everyone's done talking for a moment, and then like I talk, and it's like, fuck.
Yeah,
No, you're good. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah. What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, I think in general the way people view Sunday Mass is just another thing to check off the box. I mean, this is even something priests in my Novus Ordo they've called out, like saying you can't just miss Sunday Mass for your son's football game or something else. You need to orient this. It's the Lord's Day, and you need to orient yourself for that. And if it means making sacrifices, you should do that. And if you really can't, then that's okay. You can orient yourself mentally through prayer, like the divine office or other things for it, so that you can approach mass in a more reverent way.
What do y'all think about, I mean, so now that we've kind of discussed the bad in terms of dressing up for mass, I mean, look, I gotta let the women talk about their fashion, right?
Yes.
What do y'all like? I mean, when it comes to like mass fits, because like for dudes, it's just like, okay, like should I wear a suit today? Or lazy is like nice pair of jeans and like shirt with a collar. right? That's about as lazy as I'll probably get. So, I mean, if y'all like, what do y'all think? Like, is a good mass fit? Like, I don't know. This is outside of my realm, right?
This is a spicy take, but I do not like. And as someone who used to wear them, I do not like the lace veils because they don't actually really cover your head. Somebody called it lingerie for your head, which is a little bit crass way of saying it, but it's kind of true.
OMG.
But yeah, usually I wear. Actually, I bought like a hijab from a store, so I basically wear that. Or I have a pashmina too, or I would wear that because I don't know. It just feels wrong because I guess when I started veiling, it was with a lace veil. I'm like, I feel like this doesn't really cover me, and it feels too pretty.
It does feel pretty.
Yeah. But yeah, usually
Mrs. Bibble, do you veil? Have you ever veiled at Novus Ordo?
Not at Novus Ordo. It's one of those things where like 2 people maybe in the entire congregation will veil, but it's not really like it doesn't look very common, at least from my perspective there. The college though, I will say the college by me, like a lot of the students there veil for their Novus Ordo mass.
Really?
Nice.
That's actually impressive, I guess. Yeah. Miss TradTards is known in our circles as being very, very skilled with a needle and thread.
Ooh.
So I'm actually curious to hear, what are your thoughts on, I guess, the mass fit, and I guess also thoughts on veiling?
Well, I really do like the lace veils. I think they're very pretty, as has already been stated. But I mean, I see what you're saying about them not actually really covering you. For instance, obviously doing marriage prep right now, and in the little booklet, they're talking about what's an appropriate like wedding dress. And they're like, if it's lace over a part of your body, then it's not covered. And I was like, okay. Well, good to know. So yeah, you do have a point about that not actually counting as covering you, but I'm still gonna wear it because it's pretty. Yeah, I don't know, just dress not like a slut.
Yeah.
And
don't be a whore.
Good. Don't be a whore. Yeah, I guess I don't really like when I see younger girls and this is just a pet peeve, like they look nice from the ankles up, but then they're wearing like sneakers.
Ooh. It's just not put together, like.
Yeah, like they missed the last part of getting ready.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like sneakers aren't appropriate church footwear.
It's like I can't be bothered.
Yeah.
See, I'm just happy that y'all can come on here and say like, don't dress like a whore, because I just sound like a retard if I go off about that.
You're
Like,
just policing women. How dare you?
Guilty as charged.
Miss Bibble, what did you say about your mom?
Oh no!
Something.
I'm sorry. I was saying that the girls that wear their dresses with the sneakers. I said it's very much giving. My mom made me wear this dress, but like, mom didn't pick out my shoes for me.
That's true.
Like, okay, you put your dress on, I'll put your shoes on, and then like you're like, okay, I'm gonna wear whatever I want to wear.
Yep. It is that vibe.
Yeah. I honestly kind of want
It's
what
like
you
the
said.
one thing
I feel like. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I feel like men. It should be okay for you to call out people dressing like whores, even if you're a guy. If anything, especially if you're a guy, but I guess you can't do that nowadays. Even actually, that's the one thing that bothers me. Like in Catholic circles too, men aren't allowed to have opinions because it's like, too much, which is really weird in my opinion. Like if you're gonna be Catholic, you should affirm the reality of gender and men and women. So that's just me though.
But yeah, the first thing they'd always say is like, if you try to like, tell a girl like, hey, like maybe you should wear a little more. They're like, oh, why are you looking? That's always the first. That's the first thing.
Right.
Yeah. It's like from the hip, and it's like hard. Like, it's right there. I mean, I get it. I mean, hey, I gotta, as a witty person at times, I do admit that's a pretty good comeback on the spot. Because then you're like, yeah, well, of course I'm looking, because it's like trying to not notice a train wreck or something like that. So you have to like shoot back with that.
I mean, that's
or
a good
something.
response, because what else do you expect? Like, or if anything, you're just like, well, this is a place of worship, and then you're expected to show some basic form of reverence, and that would be in how you dress.
Here's my thing with the whole, like, why were you looking? Like, when I told that skirt story, I asked my boyfriend if he had noticed it, and he said yes. And I wasn't mad. Like, my reaction wasn't like, why are you looking? Like, there's, like, she was right in front of us, and, like, we have eyeballs, and, like, it's not like, it's one, obviously, like, looking at someone and lusting after them, like, that's not right. But, like, you can happen to make an observation, and, like, you might have an instantaneous thought on it. And, like, sometimes it's just simply like, that person needs to wear more clothes. And I think that's an okay thought and an appropriate thought to have to someone who needs to wear more clothes.
Yeah, I mean, at my gym, there's this one girl, oh my goodness. She basically wore a black bar as her upper apparel. And you can't help but look. It's like, girl, what are you wearing? Man or woman? Everyone's like, geez.
And I think you can't help biology. Like, I remember going to a talk that Mayim Bialik from Big Bang Theory gave, and they asked her why she dressed modestly when in a world where most people would say, like, well, you shouldn't be looking at me. And she goes, yeah, but I'm also, I don't remember if she said, I think she said, like, but I also know how men's brains are wired. And like, and honestly, like, men's brains, but at this point, I think it's human brain. Like, sometimes your eyes just go to, like, how your eyes go to the brightest thing. Sometimes your eyes just naturally go to skin. Like, at least mine do, and not in a lustful way. Like, I'm just very observant.
Yeah.
Or when something's like so out of the ordinary, like you're just like, you like have to do a double take. You're just like, what did I just see?
Yes. Yes.
The next topic, which we had entitled "The Wild World of Catholic Dating."
Oh my god, I'm so excited,
y'all! I know that Mrs. Bibble and Moores are just chomping at the bit, ready to talk about this. I Miss TradTards, luckily, I mean, I think we've had a pretty good Catholic dating experience.
Yep.
I'd like to say, it's funny. I guess I'll just get my perspective out of the way because I'm a man and I want to shut up for this episode. I gotta let the queens talk. So, I mean, when I started dating Miss TradTards, I'd only dated prior to that within the faith, and that went nowhere every time. So, when I started dating Miss TradTards, I was like, well, this is a beautiful woman who has a good head on her shoulders, who is very moral, and I know is a Christian, and let's just see where this goes. Like, she's an amazing person inside and out, and yeah, I'm totally gonna get blown up by my followers for being a simp, but I love my fiance, and the longer I got to know Miss TradTards, the more I realized, like, wow, no, she's an amazing person, and I just want to do like everything together. So that's how my Catholic dating experience went. I had to go outside the faith to find, I guess, a normal person. So I don't know what that says about the modern Catholic. Did you want to comment on?
I've got thoughts on the modern Catholic men because there's some common like observations I've had, but I'll save those. Well, we could talk about dating first, and I'll save my observations till the end.
Yeah, sure. I mean, so I think this is interesting because Mrs. Bibble, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think most of your Catholic dating experience has been within the Novus Ordo.
There was one that occurred in the TLMS, and that was actually like a story that I'm like chomping at the bit to tell because you'll hear it, and you're like, this doesn't even sound like a trad guy.
Interesting. And then Moore's, I mean, I guess I actually don't know too much about, because I know Mrs. Bibble pretty well. but I know that you do attend Latin Mass, probably with the same regularity around what I do. But is your experience in the dating scene, is that limited to Novus Ordo, or I guess in the past and then now the Latin Mass, or was it always within the TLM?
Well, first of all, I'm a femcel, but I've been sorry. I mean, I've been asked out quite a few times, but it's just been from both the Novus Ordo and TLM.
Gotcha. So like you're
interesting people.
Adjacent to the sphere.
Yes.
Gotcha. All right. Well, all right. Those
stories.
Some interesting perspective. Oh, that's a little scary. Okay, so
Yeah.
All right, Mrs. Bibble, how about you go fire off from the hip with your TLM story first, because it sounds like you really want to talk about it.
Okay. Yeah. Hopefully, like once I tell it, it's one of those things where I'm like, is it a good story just because I experienced it or not? But so basically, like matched with this guy, and it was exciting because it's like at this point, a lot of my dating, and when I say dating, I mean like not relationships, like just going on dates, getting to know people, but like a lot of them weren't Catholic, so. And I was kind of just being dumb and immature and going on dates and then always having the same conversations of like, oh, I'm an atheist and blah blah blah. And I'm like, oh, why? And then I just if God was real, why does he let bad things happen? And you can only have that conversation so many times before. Okay, so finally get to go out with a Catholic guy, and we went out to dinner, and he is talking about how he got his a one night stand pregnant, and that's why he has a kid. So he was not Catholic at that time. He was not Catholic at that time, but I just thought that was a really weird conversation to have on a first date.
Wait, he led with that?
Yeah, that's a horrible opener.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree with getting it out of the way, but it's a little.
So he's like, so just so you know, I have a kid. Mom and I are not together anymore. Like blah blah blah. She was actually my one night stand. I got pregnant, and like we got married, and like then it didn't work out. So it's like, okay, well, this was a lot to tell me before food even arrived, but okay.
Oh my goodness.
And then I don't really remember too much of the conversation, but at the end when they put the bill in the middle of the table, he like didn't reach for it. And like at this point, the waiter's coming by to see like, is there a card there? And he just didn't reach for it. And I was finally like, I'm like, this is awkward. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll get this one. And he goes, oh, I never turn down a free meal. And I was like, gross.
Ew. Oh my goodness.
And then like, so I pay, and then like we walk out, and like somehow I managed to walk him to his car. And then he was like, this is me. And I was like, okay. And then like he got in his car, and then like I walked back to mine. And it was just one of those things where you're like, this didn't feel very like I'm like, what? This is one of those things where you just sit in your car contemplating your life choices. And he did ask me on another date, and I for some reason decided to go again just because like give him another shot. And you also when you don't get to date a lot of like Catholic guys, you're like, okay, like I gotta give the Catholic guy a chance again. To which my coworkers who aren't religious people are like, you need more in common than Jesus. And I'm like, you don't understand though, like you don't understand. So we went on another date to
For once they were right.
yeah, and we went on another date, and because I was kind of like, I'm like, I want to see him pay for something. Like, I need to get something out of this. Again, it's not a good way of thinking, but again, younger, immature. And he pays for my movie ticket, and I like thank him for it. He goes, oh, with my military ID, yours was free. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
And then we went to dinner after, and again, I thanked him for dinner. He goes, oh, with the military ID, like, it's just the best discount in the world. And I'm like, can you stop? Like, stop. And then we were in the parking lot after, and he told me, he's like, I'd really like you to meet my son. Let's go away to he named a beach that was like 3 hours away. And I was like, what? You want to go on vacation to like for me to meet your son, and like I can't just go home after? Like, we're gonna go away? Like, what? And like and the fact that like this guy like goes to like the church, that one of the churches that that Anthony like goes to. Like you might know who I'm talking about. So, like it's just
Oh, geez.
yeah. So like it's just yeah. So it was just one of those things where you're like, I'm like I can't date non-Catholic men. Now I really can't date Catholic. I don't know. It was just a lot, and it's just one of those things where I'm like, and I ran into him, I think 2 years later, and I was like, "Hey, do you remember me?" And he was like, "No." And then I like paused and smiled at him for a second. He's like, "Oh wait," and then he like introduced me to people and told them that we met on a Catholic dating site, and I'm like,
Oh
"This is
gosh.
definitely not a Catholic dating site." And that was my first
Yeah.
time dating a Catholic, going on a date with a Catholic as like an adult.
Horrible
Wow.
experience.
I mean, at first I was like, man, that guy was like gonna kill you, like 3 hours away.
That's what I
And
would
then
have
Let's
thought.
just go right now.
and then it's funny
It's the
because I'll go to
implication.
sometimes I'll see him at mass and his kids running around and he's there and I'm just like, oh, I'm like the kid's kind of cute. I'm like maybe I should have gave him another chance.
No.
Well, I think that's one of the big things, right? Like just because someone is Catholic, like doesn't mean they have their shit together in any way, shape, or form.
100%. Yep, that has been my experience.
There's some odd people out there. Yeah, more you want to jump in here and maybe talk about one of your experiences?
I think there are few people that are not men that are not well socialized, and it just really becomes really unfortunate encounters. Like I was not interested in this person at all. We were just like friends, and we were in our chapel library, and I was talking to 2 other friends of mine, and this guy came in, sat down next to me, and then he basically asked me out in front of those 2 people while I was in the middle of a conversation with them. And I basically gave him the death stare because that's who I am. And he's, oh, I'm so sorry. And he ran out of the room.
I'm just imagining like Chris Chan walking up to you in the church library.
It was pretty bad. Yeah. I mean, I think for me, it's a little bit more of a complicated things. I've been thinking about my vocation. I was in contact with a nuns from a certain order for like 2 years. So I've just been, figuring that out for myself. But I think in my experience, there's just been an issue in the dating sphere where men almost kind of like idolize you if you have a certain interest, or they like fetishize you. It's like being a Catholic and right-wing woman with like base takes. Oh my, it's like a fetish to some of these people because of the internet. And it really reflects badly in how they speak to you. Like one person asked me out, he like talked about how many kids we want to have, and that was a little really weird.
Wait, what? Like, hold on. So like he was asking you out, and that's what he like said.
He's yeah, we
part
can
of
have
that?
we can have so many base children together.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think subtlety is lost on a lot of people in this sphere. I mean, this is unsurprising to me. I there is a reason why this channel is called TradTards, and it is self-referential.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, listen, I'm autistic, but like, come on. Come on. And I think there's also just the issue of like,
rhythm with the tism.
yeah, exactly. That is my philosophy. But I think there's just an issue of like, especially me, because pretty like very, I guess, tomboyish my personality, and that just ends up really weird conversations. Sometimes like, you're a girl and you like Warhammer. Oh my gosh, it's really weird. And just, I think overall, I've just had, I have a lot of guy friends, we're chill, but like in terms of men asking me out has just been horrible, and I think it just made me more not want to date men, I guess. And in general, seeing how people approach marriage and women and their roles in the household, it's kind of degraded itself again because of the internet and the whole normification of trad culture. And it's just like, yeah, I want to have kids and raise a family, but and cooking, you know, for your boyfriend or husband is just a way you love them, and it's not necessarily some hard ingrained role where it's like, yeah, you're a slave in the kitchen. I mean, a lot of these views on women have, you know, come from the post-industrial revolution culture and life. Whereas, like in other countries, women were skilled laborers, workers, some ran stores, sewed, and they did different things. Where people here just can't comprehend that, and they just want you to be barefoot in the kitchen.
Yeah, there is like kind of this pulp culture, like trad view, which is usually not like a 1-to-1 of how things actually were in a big way. And maybe I'll sound too retarded progressive saying that, but I mean, like, you know, there was, you know, like a woman like did more than just like. What's funny is it's kind of like buying into the leftist constructed view
Yeah.
of traditional gender roles, where it's like, no, I mean, like obviously, like, you know, you didn't have like extreme girl bosses like, you know, working regular like shifts, but like,
100%.
you know, like
Yeah.
women did things outside the home, and you know, they actually usually had a lot of influence, even if they didn't like necessarily have a normal career. So
Yeah.
yeah, it is like kind of buying into just this like what is a very almost like a Marxist view of traditional gender roles, and being like, well, actually that was based. It's like, no, it's a bastardization of what was, and then you're just kind of buying into that line by
Yeah.
pushing it like really far. Now, granted, like, you know, everything like prior to 1999 is considered, you know, by modern standards to be like horrible and oppressive, and like women like had it so bad when they couldn't abort their kids, you know, at a moment's notice, which is apparently the standard for equality these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're this. I mean, maybe this is something just as a whole, because I know that I know you've experienced this, Mrs. Bibble, because you've talked about this before. Is there something to be said about like the dudes who? I mean, now granted, it is very good to go to church and to do a lot of things within the church socially, but you kind of like see some guys that like that is. Do they really have a life outside of church activities? Like, are they a productive just individual? Can they like stand on their own 2 feet in the real world? I think that there's dudes in the TLM and the Novus Ordo that are just like these cookie cutter like nice guys. And I don't know, have y'all like ran into them? Because I ran into them just like trying to make friends with like other
No,
dudes my age, and it can.
That's a really great like point, because I was talking to a friend, and this I'm so I do like apologize if this offends anybody, because this is a really hot take and does not obviously apply to everyone. But we just kind of were talking, and we're just like, what is up with like the Novus Ordo men and like the anxiety that they have generally in life? Like, they're very anxious, like medicated people, and like we can't quite figure out like what's happening there. And but like, are they functioning? Sometimes they're functioning the bare minimum. Like, can they, like, are they going to work? Sort of, maybe. But like anything else outside that, like, they can't have social circles. Like, they can't go do things because it's like too much for them. Hot take, and maybe very limited to what I've experienced. But
No, we love hot takes on TradTards. No, I mean, the more the merrier, please. This is very interesting to me because, you know, obviously, why am I saying obviously? Of course, obviously, I'm a dude. I don't know jack shit about the dating scene anymore. So, no, that's actually very interesting. I mean, do you think it's what do you think the symptoms are that lead to kind of like these very, so you kind of term them as anxious kind of guys, right? Like
yeah,
is it like the whole world, they just like can't like handle it because like the world's too tough or something like that?
that's why I don't
Or
know. I don't know. Like, they're very sweet people and very great people, and can be like very, very active within the church. But it's like, that's like almost like it's taking all of their energy.
interesting. Yeah.
And maybe it's, again, maybe it's just kind of like a very small sample size. But there's also times like similar conversations I'll have with friends where we'll just be like, this more applies to like guys in general, but like the community, like how men and women communicate is just so different. And I'll just be like, are like people being rude, or are they just being like socially like autistic and like not knowing like what communication is necessary and when it's like not.
Yeah. I think that like we're in a weird like spot now. I think maybe it's the internet that has like made this worse, where
Completely agree.
if you like run into someone who's going to challenge you on anything or even a challenging situation, and everyone's guilty of it now, you can just kind of go into your little safe space, like huddle either on the internet and to a smaller extent in person, whether that be like your church circle, and that becomes your entire social life, and you can't really do anything outside of it. Like I don't know, like I just like see some guys, and I'm like I really wonder, kind of like how they're doing outside of masks, because I'm like I don't know how these dudes like have normal conversations. Some of these dudes, now granted, like I can vibe with them, right? Like I can speak that language, but and this like is in the trad sphere too. I'm just like, how the heck do these guys like operate? Like, do they have a job? Do they like have plans? Do they like think like I don't know, like about like life goals, or like are actively trying to like reach those goals? Like I don't know. Like it's very interesting running into like people that it seems that the church is their entire social life, and I don't really know how they operate in the real world, so to speak.
I've had the same exact, I've asked the same questions to myself too about people, because like I'll think about that. Like, and one time I went to and like I don't want to pick on like the trad young adults, but like went to like one of the young adult events with the TLM church, and it was just really hard to socialize and communicate with everyone. And I'm just like, do you guys go out into the world? Like, do you guys go to work and like talk to coworkers? Or are you guys just kind of like, you work from home and this is your social life and you're communicating with people who are just like you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've had that. It's kind of like what I mentioned before, by people being not as socialized. It's like the only thing they can talk about is church politics or church history. I'm like, do you have any other interests? Because it's okay to be interested in other things. And it kind of goes to the thing I was talking about earlier about like how they think this is one hard and green rule for women, and then they have the same thing for men, and like this almost false sense of masculinity, where she's like, oh, reading Chesterton, smoking cigars, and then that's it, and wearing tweed. I don't know.
Did you just diss the Puffs with Peter podcast? Did you just fucking diss the Puffs with Peter podcast?
But like, go for it. But like, I think about
Fine.
a friend. I think about a friend that we all have, and that friend has like 3 conversations he loves to talk about, and it's like anytime you see him, it's like he sometimes will get fired up on a rant, but it's like you know what his trigger words are for each of these rants. And it's just kind of like, it's like, okay, but like, do you want to talk about something else that isn't like needing a big conversation over? Like, do you want to talk about like something fun? And I just feel like with some people, like they don't want to talk about like fun, stupid brain rot things. They want to talk
Sorry,
about
if
like,
you're Catholic, you can't have fun.
And then if I were to try to have a fun conversation with this person, he'd be like, this is stupid. I'm going home.
Yeah. Sorry, you should only be a biblical scholar and talking about some random council in the past and its controversies.
Yeah. I mean, it is interesting, right? Because it almost seems like the tradcast community, and with men, with some of them, that this is kind of where like the whole like rad trad like stereotype comes from. There are some people that fit that mold. Don't get me wrong. I do think that's kind of blown out of proportion, because there's just a lot. You also just like see people that don't have any social circle within their Latin mass they go to, because they're just busy as shit, especially if they actually have kids. Like, guess what? You don't have time to like be some weirdo who just only wants to talk about like church things all the time, because now I had like 3 now. If you actually marry in the church, and then you have like 4 kids, well, guess what? Your social life is, you gotta fucking make money, and you gotta just lock in, like you're grown up. That's how it is. But yeah, no, I've seen that. It's interesting. I've seen it also too from my limited time when I was trying to date within just within other Catholics. Like it was hard to sometimes like get out of that like feedback loop of just, okay, yes, the Catholicism, yes, it's a common point. And like you mentioned, Mrs. Bibble, it's hard too when there's not many Catholics because you like start like playing mental games with yourself, trying to justify what might be a bad situation because like there's like a scarcity effect.
Yes. Yes. You're like, these are my options. They might not be great, but like these are the options I've allowed myself.
Yeah, it's rough. And especially like a lot of areas, there might be Catholics, but if they're under 30 is a whole different matter.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there's also the issue of like, I think you can go for both genders of, being unable to have a conversation with the opposite gender because the only thing you're thinking about is like, oh, is this person going to be my husband or wife? Like, you can talk to like women or men like a normal human being, not just a potential spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like people just aren't comfortable in their own skin, like when they want to like talk to someone of like the opposite sex. I think it's just like people being self-conscious, and that might be their only time where they're like, oh, this is like someone that might even like, I get it. Like it's a bad situation, right? I think we can all agree. Like for a lot of people that are going through it right now, like it's rough. It's a tough market out there.
It is a tough market. And it's hard too. I think from a woman perspective, like I like dealing with a lot of like shy Catholic men, and like in terms of like finding people, like I'm like, oh, like who, like how would it, like will I meet someone, like when I was single, I'm like, am I gonna meet someone organically? And like a lot of the shy Catholic guys, like you really have to like pull them out of their shell, and to the point where you're just kind of like, if you're, even if you're just trying to be nice and like get people to mingle, like sometimes you're like, am I bothering you talking to you right now? Because it's just like, there's sometimes I just felt like just trying to socialize with people was like pulling their teeth. And then when I was asked out by
Yeah.
Catholics, it was normally by like genuinely like good guys, but kind of like a little quirky in their own way and who were more extroverted. And like it was very obvious that they like, it was like they were looking for like a wife. So it was kind of like they would ask out anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And like maybe in a healthy way, like, oh, like we get along really well. Like I just kind of want to see like do we vibe on a date? Like let's try it. But like eventually it's kind of awkward, like when you're having coffee with someone, you're like, wow, you went on a date with my friend and like fell in love with her on the second date. And like now I'm on a date with you, and like I wasn't even sure if I wanted to do this, but now everyone's telling me like if I don't like you, like I have to be very clear, else you're gonna fall in love with me on the second date. Like it's just all, and it kind of feels so like keeping it in the family here, because even as big as your parish is, it's very small in terms of like the available young adults like you like around you.
It's a very real phenomena. As a dude, I remember thinking about that because I was just like, if you like were trying to, just like if you're interested in like anyone within like a small social circle, like, okay, you go out with someone, like everyone all of a sudden knows that.
Yeah.
And then it's awkward.
At my chapels like that, like if you see a guy and a girl sitting next to each other, everybody's gonna be talking and saying something. And if they regularly start sitting next to each other, it's like, ooh. And then if they stop, it's like drama.
Oh my gosh. As someone who had that observation, like, yes, I can think about a specific couple where I was like, they're spending a lot of time together. And then I'm like, oh, they're not sitting next to each other anymore. Now they're sitting with the other people. And then I found out a year later, I had to ask, I'm like, hey, was so-and-so and so-and-so dating? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, I knew it.
It is weird. Like, maybe it's because, and this is, my viewers all very, very aware that we are in the South, which
Dixieland.
Outside of the best part of America, frankly.
Yes, sir.
But for being a Catholic, it also means like you ain't finding like others like very, very often. So that definitely affects the dating scene. I'm happy I'm out of that rat race. I'm so happy. But I don't know. The one thing I don't get was like I had to change. This is me talking as a dude again, but I had to like change my outlook because I see this a lot, and this isn't even like a Catholic man thing. Is some dudes, I think like the big breakthrough point with guys, and Mrs. Bilby, you mentioned there's like a lot of like shy dudes that you ran into that just like didn't want to like even like make the first move, I guess, with anyone. I think like especially if you believe in God at all or you're a Catholic, I think like dudes got to realize this, and it'll probably change their outlook on everything. Is like, dying alone like isn't actually like there are worse fates than that, like going to hell.
Yeah.
True. I was just saying, like, in Paul, and like, it wasn't one of the letters was said like, be single. There's less anxiety when you're single.
Yeah, there's
Like,
virtue in
Oh yeah,
singleness, and that you can focus more on prayer if you were single. It's yeah.
yeah. Like who can take it. I mean that's what Christ says in regards
Yeah.
to people that don't that don't marry or have kids. But I think like the big thing is too is like if you aren't going to be able to find happiness on your own, like if you genuinely can't like be comfortable in your own skin, just like existing and like finding meaning in life, I think unfortunately a lot of people like they think that their life is meaningless or they don't have any inherent value if they cannot get in a relationship, which will eventually just lead to like desperation, and which like is, I mean, from what I understand with the female psyche is like probably the worst thing you can ever like put those signals out that you're desperate. Like
Yeah,
it's
I
gonna
mean,
kill a lot.
it's like what Miss Bibble is saying. It's like a guy's just gonna ask out any woman he talks to because he's so desperate, and to a woman just feels like you don't genuinely like me. You're just asking me out, or you like me just because I'm a woman, not because of who I am.
Yeah, and like I see this all the time, and obviously like people go through breakups, it stinks, but like it isn't like it is not the end of the world. Like if you like generally like are confident, like know like okay, I'm a decent person, I might have my failings because I'm a human, but if I have that confidence where I know I'm doing enough right in my life, I have goals that I want to reach, whether someone's with me on that journey or not, right? It would probably be nicer, but like I know that I have inherent value, worth, and meaning outside of that. And I mean, if you have that, then it's like, even if you find someone or you don't, like you're probably going to live a pretty good life. And people that live, pretty healthy, well-rounded lives are probably going to be better at probably attracting someone that would want to kind of go along on that journey with them. Maybe this is like my retarded take. I don't know. Y'all tell me, y'all three women here. I think I was able to convince one lovely lady of that potentially.
No, I believe that. Like, be an interesting person and live an interesting life to the point where you're not just sitting around all day thinking, I need a boyfriend, I need a boyfriend, I need a boyfriend. And like just focus on like I mean obviously like focus on prayer and the Lord, but like focus on doing things other than dating and being on the internet. And like
it gets really annoying because they're unfortunately, in with some female circles, with some people, the only thing they can ever talk about is guys. Like, do you have any other interests besides men in dating?
Literally. And like as someone, I'm not like super close with my like secular friends anymore, just because when you have less in common with someone, you just naturally drift apart. But like when I was closer to these friends, like I'd get so tired of hearing about like just guys and like very like meaningless conversation, and just kind of like using guys as a way to like entertain themselves because they were bored. And I'm like, you don't have anything better to do, like really?
Yeah, there's one person I know. I think she also is desperate. She just goes on dates with anyone and everyone, and it's just a form of entertainment to her, and like telling stories to other people. Like, you're wasting your own time and other people's time. You need to be a little bit more intentional and just, don't do nothing, but, just be more intentional on how you date.
Being like for real, like that was me at one point. Like I was dating a lot, and like it was hard for me to say no to people. And it was like, and I was like recently reflecting on all this, and it got so exhausting, like going on back-to-back dates, and like you're not really one forming any connection with people, but two, the people I was going on dates with, like I never even wanted a connection with them in the first place. So it's just wasting my time.
guess I'm a very special case because I never really cared about dating. Like in high school and like early college, I had like 2 years, like my junior and senior. I definitely had like a yearning phase, but then after that, I just perhaps it just could be my bad experiences with the guys I've met and been asked out by. I just don't care anymore. And it's interesting because a lot of people to me are like, "Oh, you'll find someone soon. Oh, don't worry." I'm like, I'm not worried at all. I don't care.
That's a good place to be in too, because it's like I remember for me, I'm emotionally got to a point where I was like, I'm tired of doing this alone. Like when life got stressful and stuff. But
Mhm.
like in moments like that, I was like, okay, like let's actually try to rely on God for this. And by doing that, like formed such a better foundation for my life that like when I did meet someone, it wasn't like, oh, I need you emotionally. It's more like, no, like I'm ready to make the sacrifices for like a meaningful relationship, but like I don't need this like more than I need God.
I'm curious, and I know you've been quite a bit, Miss TradTards, but it doesn't actually have to be even within a Catholic context. But have you like seen like similar, I guess, patterns even within like some of your other social circles that that you're in, just even outside of the faith or even in the past?
Yeah, I'd say, a lot of people don't really have a life outside of their own inner selves, and their inner selves just play video games, and live with their parents. Not that that's a bad thing, considering I do. Many people live with their parents, but I don't know that thing you said about people not having goals or ambitions. Um, I think is very popular right now, not to have goals or ambitions, um, which I think a lack of ambition is an extremely unattractive quality in anyone, but especially as a woman looking at a man. Like if there's
Mhm.
nothing you want to do, it's like, ugh,
Yeah, you should be on that
gross.
path to excellency. It'd be reflective as well as to how you take care of your home and your family. If you don't have any achievable goals or ambition in your life, are you just gonna be a bum?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh
Yeah,
my
it's
god.
not giving me a lot of faith.
I've got someone like you guys are describing like the perfect example of somebody I know who is just, and it's like sad to see because like he's a trad, like he is, and but he's got no ambition and no job and doesn't do anything right now, and it's really like sad to watch that person be like, what are you like what is your drive right now? Like what are you doing all day?
Oh man, that stinks.
That's the thing too. Like that ambition doesn't have to be like, oh, I want to start a Fortune 500 company,
Yeah.
or I want to get TradTards to be the #1 podcast in the world, which I do. But when it comes to like, I mean, it could literally just be like, you could just be like super autistic about like a certain thing. Now, granted, like that can go like very opposite if it's like something that like you shut out everything else, but you can be like super passionate about something, and as long as you're like genuinely passionate about it and like it's obvious, like you might be like, you're doing it because you love it or you're busting your ass for it. That's gonna like it's gonna instill some discipline. Like you're gonna set plans, you're gonna make goals for yourself. I mean, obviously not everyone's probably gonna find a wife if they like are really if their main passion is model trains, but like it could
Well,
be like anything. The thing is, like people like can tell if someone's truly passionate about something. Like someone can have like what might seem like a super boring interest or passion, but if they like speak about it with an intensity that shows they're genuine, like I don't know, like you ever like watch a video where someone's talking about like some random topic that you would never listen to, but because they are just so genuinely like in love with that thing that you just kind of want to hear what they have to say about it.
yeah, it's very
Yeah.
endearing. It could be. I mean, like you said, it shows discipline, and it can just show, I guess, the humanity of a person, and it is cute and cool to hear about somebody's interests that I don't know about, and it's something new you can share with friends, potential spouse, or if you're already married, your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I don't understand, and especially if we're all like Catholics, like obviously everyone's like striving towards heaven, so at least there's a goal
like an overriding, like, okay, here's my reason not to be a horrible person, and you can always improve on that. Like, okay, but once you get that out of the way, you know, once you get like first principles out of the way, it's like, okay, what else is there? Some people don't have anything.
Right.
Could be something as simple, and I think for me is like probably an attractive trait or the most meaningful is somebody that goes to the gym. It shows that you take care of your body and yourself, and it shows you have some form of discipline in your life.
Yes,
I
that is an
agree.
attractive quality.
And when I say go to the gym, like I don't mean like I used to think like I wanted a gym guy until I realized there's some gym guys who just love themselves a little too much. But like
Oh yes, vanity is certainly a problem.
but like in terms of just like going for like overall like health and routine and just getting out of the house, like I do admire that quality in someone.
Someone's eating something.
Oh, I think that was my pen.
Oh, I thought someone cracked open like a
No,
can of, like,
I
monster
like
or something.
fountain pens. So there's one pen has a magnetic lid, so I like fiddling with it.
Is that your stim?
What?
Are we
Yeah, I'm stimming right now. Oh my god.
Me and Miss TradTards are watching the Darius Stim compilation.
I love Darius. Oh my
Oh
gosh.
god. Hold on, we're gonna share this on the screen here.
Yeah.
Mrs. Bibble, are you aware of Darius Stim?
No idea what's going on.
The closet stim is my favorite.
What? Wait, so you said you're on TikTok contacting the
Yeah,
mothership?
He's
Wait,
huge
Mrs.
on
Bibble, you said
TikTok.
you're on TikTok and you don't know who.
No, I don't know who Darius
What is your feed on TikTok, Mrs. Bibble?
My feed on TikTok
doesn't have-
is a
If
lot
it doesn't
of
have Darius in it, it ain't shit.
it's very girly stuff. I feel like I'm on girly TikTok. They show me Barbie clips from movies and like gut health stuff and Pilates things and like cats, you know, the huge.
Cats are always a good thing. I mean, maybe Darius just started out kind of on the not, normal person side of both Instagram and TikTok, and then I think he just kind of blew up. So he's beloved by many.
Well, here's the.
Go to bed.
Oh, he's doing some like Scatman
Almost
stuff right
11.
there.
You gotta get up for school. You going to bed? Good.
I haven't seen that one. Oh my gosh.
Imagine being the neighbors to Darius. Oh, that's the one.
Darius.
Yes, this is my favorite one.
Darius. Why are you in my closet?
A
Darius.
NASA shirt,
Hey,
just the
Darius.
cherry on top.
Why are you in there? What are you looking for? Why are you in my closet? What are you looking for? What do you want? Why are you in my closet, Darius?
Yeah, that's Darius. If you haven't seen that.
Oh my gosh.
There are like people making, TikToks of like rankings of, his stims or imitating him, all in, good nature. But, it's quite funny.
Him swimming on his back, just screaming was such a vibe.
So true.
So I guess we can now talk about current events. Unless was there any last words on the wild world of Catholic dating?
I don't think so. Other than if any viewers are watching this thinking that they were called out,
You were called out.
But there was some great advice given here, like eat healthy, go to the gym, like learn to talk to people, like talk to people as if they are not your future wife, just as a person.
Yeah.
And you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, and it's not the end of the world if you are single. Do not be black-pilled or a doomer. That's bad.
Mm-hmm.
There is
Women
glory-
smell that shit, boys.
Oh
They
my
smell that shit a mile
gosh.
away. They're like, that's a pussy.
I know you're blackpilling right now. Uh-oh.
Well, here's the thing, right? Here's what I know people are gonna say in the comments, because as a man, believe it or not, I'm a little retarded. But I also know what they're gonna say. They're gonna say you shouldn't get fishing advice from the fish.
Yeah.
Right? That's what they're
Yeah.
gonna say. They're gonna be like, don't listen to those women on the show. They don't know what they're talking about. They don't know what they actually want.
Yeah.
Well, as a woman who once wanted to be caught, I'm giving you the juicy worm.
Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, don't be a loser and like, just chill the
Yeah.
fuck out when you're talking to women.
Yeah.
I don't think that's
basically
bad
it.
advice.
I think the other thing
Yeah.
I hear from them too is like, you're a woman, so it's so easy for you. Like, no, it's not.
Okay, as a woman who okay, so I'm in a bunch of dating groups on Facebook now. These don't apply. And by excuse me, not dating groups. There's like, are we dating the same guy? And then there's like local area, and girls
I've
will
seen that.
literally be posting like So my boyfriend cheated on me a couple times, but he says he's sorry. And I think I still love and it's just like there's like these women are out here dating like the lowest quality dudes. And I don't know like why it's just like I'm like I know there's nice and good guys out there and there's women who want to find those guys, but they're I don't know, like just everyone's just being so dumb. But I forget where I'm going. I forgot where I was going with this. But it's just I don't know. I just feel like the world like
I
the
just
dating
think that
world is so broken.
those Facebook groups. I think those Facebook groups are kind of insane, but like I get it to a certain extent because like dudes just kind of have like an informal thing about that. We just would never like make a Facebook group about like have you dated like the same person. Dudes would just tell each other straight up about it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Like I don't know, like the whole I get it. Like I get like the necessity like to like share that info, but like making a Facebook group is kind of wild. I'm just saying, like, because
Oh, I'm in it for purely.
I mean, because for the entertainment.
Oh
Yeah.
no, it's
I think it's just to figure it out because obviously the person you're not dating is not going to tell you they're going with somebody else. But if you suspect it and they're dating around the general area, but you don't know who, and if you ask around, you don't get any results. I think it is a fruitful endeavor to be like, guys, are we dating the same person in a public forum?
Sometimes
How big
girls
are these
find
groups?
out-
I'm curious.
They're big, but they have they're in every city. But one time I witnessed
Wow.
live watching a post, like 2 girls found out that their boyfriend was the same person. He was just bouncing back and forth between them. But my favorite thing about these groups is like girls will post a mugshot of a man with shark teeth and the tattoo Coochie Man on his chest and be like, "Is there any red flags?" Like, girl,
Oh
he had
my
his teeth
goodness.
shaved and Coochie Man is on his chest. Like, what? And then in another post I was in, a girl shared that she was in love with someone serving 30, and the comments were like, "What do you mean? 30 years in prison? You're in love with him serving 30 years in prison? What did he do?" And she goes, "Murder. But he's a good guy. He just did something bad." Like, ah! Like it's just
that is only acceptable for the I guess this fits in with the
I knew you were gonna. Luigi's
Mansion.
I just wanted to clean him up. Y'all thirsty and start talking about him first. Just all out for
I think
that.
we got the wrong man because I think Luigi framed him.
So true.
Oh,
Yet
Luigi
another
just
example of Italian excellence. What can I say?
This was something that we definitely were meaning to talk about. I haven't. All right, so what is this guy? Okay, look, there he is with his shirt on, but this dude is. All right, like what do y'all think about him? Is he like I don't know? Is he a decent looking guy? He looks like normal enough to me. Just looks like any other Italian guy I've met.
I have a
Italian
friend
bloke.
who's
He looks
gay.
like a real
He's very
chill
gay
guy.
for him.
Wait, what did you say, Mrs.
I have.
I said he looks like a real chill guy.
He does. He looks nice. He has a nice smile.
Wait, so have you noticed this? Everyone's like, this guy, it can't be
The
him
eyebrow.
because he almost has a unibrow. But I don't think like people understand just how quickly like Italians grow their facial hair back.
Yeah, there's just one guy I think I've seen on Instagram. He grows like his facial hair and eyebrows like so fast every morning. It's crazy. Even throughout the day, there's a difference, which is insane. So it is genetically possible,
about that pic?
especially if you're stressful and on the run, to grow hair in a matter of days.
What about this pic? What is this? What is this vibe? What is he giving?
He's being like squeezed. I don't know.
What I think is crazy is that there's so many images of this guy in such a short period of time. Like, we had nowhere near this many pictures of the guy who tried to kill Trump.
Dude, the police know. I mean, for the guy who killed Trump, there's only his dead brains splattered everywhere. I don't know.
But
yeah.
I saw a post today on Facebook where they're like, he didn't do it. He was in Tulsa with me. And everyone's like, yeah, I was on the phone with him. And it was at the time mentioned. And it was completely silent in the background.
Yeah, I actually took it to TLM. So he didn't do it.
If it turns out this dude attends TLM, then yeah, he might be the next Hitler.
Yeah.
It's him.
I
This
mean,
is the beginning of the arc.
I think I found it hilarious how leftists tried to immediately claim him. And then when it was revealed, he was kind of like, center right, definitely moving further to the right. It was hilarious.
I mean, there's the part of me that, knows that murder is wrong and I don't want to justify it. And I don't want to be like publicly justify it, but also like we need to talk about like what drove him there and like the reasoning behind it and like the big issue of like American healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes to a point where people on both sides of the political spectrum are united in either celebrating his death or just being completely apathetic to it, there is a conversation that, needs to happen.
Yeah, whenever the left and right agree, like we need to talk about that.
Yeah, I mean, Ben Shapiro made a video and all the comments were just, I mean, nowadays most people hate him, but just destroying him. It's like, I'm on the right side, but I don't know, healthcare has personally destroyed my life in some way. And I think I know a lot of, right-wing talking heads, are more just like, oh, bootlickers, I guess. And, oh, it was wrong for him to do that. It was it. But I think there needs to be an understanding in the difference between, somebody put it in a really good way, but a difference between parasitic financial capital and productive industrial capital. And the healthcare system is definitely an example of parasitic financial capital that has quite literally led to the death of millions of, Americans and have destroyed families.
Yes.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, so healthcare and also how insurance works. It's kind of like it's unfathomable that you can like pay so much like month after month, and then like you finally have to actually use your insurance, and like it won't even cover like maybe half of what you need.
Sorry, I don't think this medicine's experimental, so you probably should just die anyways.
Yeah, sometimes it's how they act. I mean, I'm lucky with my provider, but I know a lot of people like it's a fucking rough system. Yeah, I mean, I think the main thing with wait, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, one of my old coworkers is dating a guy in the military, and she'll tell him like, "Oh man, I had to get this X-ray, and I had to pay $400 for it." And he went, "Why did you have to pay $400 for your X-ray? You have insurance." And she's like, "My insurance doesn't cover everything like yours does." And that was just like mind-blowing information to him.
Yeah, it's definitely brought up like to the forefront. Yeah, unless you are in the military, like insurance, it's just all up to kind of the whims of your provider and how much do they want to pay, even if you've been, putting so much away. Like you can almost just, I mean, I know like some people like using HSAs because you can just, if you're generally healthy, you can just save up, and that might actually be more economical, unless you have like a giant, thing happen out of nowhere that's going to cost like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Just because like, all right, yeah, you pay every month your healthcare bill, but then you just get killed anyway when you actually get the bill, and they're only covering like a quarter of that.
Yeah, I mean, even with the case of the specific CU got killed, United Healthcare, they have the most amount of denials and claims compared to like any other like major healthcare company, and it's much higher than the industrial average too. And there were even claims of them like outsourcing, denials to AI and Indian call centers. Like, come on.
That'd be a horrible experience getting denied.
And somebody from an Indian call center, like, yeah, sorry, you will die. And then I'd shoot the CEO too, honestly.
Well, I think too, even outside of the healthcare thing, I think Americans, well, I guess it does tie back into the healthcare thing because people are generally either ambivalent or have a negative experience. So they have a negative connotation with someone that would be like in charge of a company like that.
Mhm.
But this is a very rare example in the 21st century in a developed country where there was like specifically targeted political violence that was not just like a terroristic act, that was like propaganda by the deed, so to speak, if we're going to use like like very specific like terrorism like study terms here. This was a very like calculated, like one guy has been deemed responsible for this and we're going to go after him, like he alone is responsible. And I think people are like you don't really see vigilante justice like that. And it's very rare, like especially 21st century. People would think like people are used to like hearing about shootings, but it's like random, and
Random
they're
acts of
just trying to get a
violence.
name for they're trying to get a name for themselves, or they're just shooting a bunch of like innocent people. Now who's to say that this guy deserved getting shot? I don't know, but like there was like a reason why. Like this wasn't a random act. He wasn't just killing someone to kill somebody. Like he had a reason, he had a motive, and like he believed he was like morally justified in doing it. And he wasn't like, for what we know so far, he wasn't insane.
Yeah. What do you think? I don't know if you heard of the theory, but do you think he got like one-shotted by mushrooms and then became insane?
From everything I've seen, it seems like he had to have his rational mind intact to be able to like, evade police in the biggest metropolitan area in the country that has plenty of cameras everywhere. So he obviously had to be able to rationally think through a plan and then execute it. So no, I don't think mushrooms are what led him to just all of a sudden fly off the handle and do this. I don't know. Has anyone done mushrooms here?
No, can't say I have.
No, just like mushroom supplements like lion's mane, but nothing crazy.
Have you seen there's that drink where it has lion's mane in it, and it's like, and there's also like a weird, it's not THC, but like another cannabinoid that's like that doesn't do anything. It's like a drink.
I know what you're talking about, and I've seen ads for it, weirdly enough.
But it doesn't, it like acts like it's psychoactive, but it's not. It's literally just, it's lion's mane. They're acting like it's gonna make you trip, but it's just soda with mushroom.
I think even with lion's mane, and people are like, it's gonna cure like a bunch of diseases. It's gonna do this for you. It's gonna do that for you. It's interesting, I think.
I mean, I like regular mushrooms on pizza, and I guess what's it, chicken of the woods? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
I know Miss TradTards has experience with chicken of the woods. Have you like picked it in the woods before? Like actually found it?
Not in the woods, no. But it grows in our neighbor's backyard, so.
Ooh.
It's pretty interesting. I think if I were to eat any mushrooms I found where I live, I'd probably die.
Yeah.
And I just do not understand the artistic direction of this. They're not even embroidered. They're just, I don't know, glued on designs.
Miss TradTards, how quickly could you make one of these?
Probably like 3 hours. It's like iron on. I don't know. It looks terrible. Like this, it's just, it's gay.
This is what you want to represent the Catholic Church. Ugh, it's pathetic.
Speaking of that, okay, this is something I've been meaning to comment on. I guess I'm late to the party on it. Luce. I know you have a very strong opinion, Moors, but Mrs. Bibble, Miss TradTards, I think y'all are tracking on the whole Luce thing, right?
I have no clue.
Bless
so
your
the
heart.
Vatican made a little Yeah, y'all are the luckiest people in all of Christendom.
Oh, the little
The
emoji.
Vatican made a little anime, little girl, little like is it Chibi? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, chibi mascot.
Oh,
Yeah, this is a thing.
why?
It's for
That's a good question.
the Japan Expo thing, and the Vatican's going to go to it, and that's their representative. The same artist did a similar, art girl thing for Italy for the same event. So every country has their own little mascot.
Oh,
Well, no, I thought
Weird.
Luce, but Luce is just generally Catholic, though.
I think it was created for the intention of that event, and it's just also going to be applied for the Jubilee. I don't know.
Yeah, I guess my view on it is like I don't mind if like this like type of art is made.
Yeah.
I just my beef is like the Vatican like paying for this is just so out of like it's just so weird.
Yeah, I agree.
Like pop art, like Catholic pop art's always going to be a thing, right? Because people make art of everything, and I'm not opposed to a different art style, whatever. But it's just like this is what the Vatican is like. We need to spend money on this. This is very important. I'm not even gonna like get into the whole argument. Does it actually lead people to the church? But it's just
Yeah.
it does not seem fitting that the Vatican is spending funds on. I mean, like I know people that can like draft this up in GIMP in like 30 minutes, and the Vatican like probably paid a lot of money.
Exorbitant,
For this to be
yeah.
made. Yeah. So
I mean, if it's a thing meant to be for kids, I guess I kind of get it. I mean, I don't know if I would like this or like the same thing done to a saint. I think I'd prefer this over, chibifying a saint.
yeah, at least like this is just like a character that it's not demeaning or belittling any person that actually lived.
Yeah.
But it's just odd. It's odd.
Yeah.
Was there anything else we forgot to
I think we
talk
hit it
about?
all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Assad did nothing wrong.